May these words that I speak be grounded in my soul, encouraged by the God presence in me. And may these words that you hear be captured by your soul, enlivened by the God presence in you. Amen. I was a teenager in the early 1970s, a time when many people were asking the big questions around issues of justice, equality, and power. It was also a time of hippies, free love, and pot smoking. It wasn't legal then, but there is no question that I was influenced by the cultural shifts that were happening around me and around my friends. But in high school, I wasn't part of an athletic clique. I wasn't part of a good-looking clique. I wasn't part of an anti-establishment clique. I wasn't part of a high-achieving academic clique. My friends and I, about a dozen of us, called ourselves the NLLSOs. NLLSOs. No longer lonely social outcasts. And I guess we too were a clique, although we never turned anyone away. Our little group spent a lot of time together after school, evenings when there wasn't too much homework, most weekends, and even regular all-night parties, which meant elaborate dinners, of course, pop and chips, really pop and chips, incense and candles, and music on a record player. But the most memorable times were when 4 to 6 of us would gather on a Friday or a Saturday night in my parents' tent trailer in the backyard, lit by candles, fragranced by incense, where we would talk at length about the big questions. Why are we here? What gives life meaning? Is there a God? What is real love? Of course, these conversations were never planned, because if we planned them, they just wouldn't have worked. Rather, they surfaced. They surfaced out of our deep trust of each other and our willingness to be open and vulnerable. And I realize now, today, how uncommon that is for most teens. Then and now, and that deeply saddens me. And I tell you all of this as a setup for one particular conversation that happened over 2 nights. And it started with one of our friends asking, "Who would you be willing to die for?" Well, we didn't answer very seriously at first. I mean, that was a big, scary question. So apart from being willing to die for each other, we found it easy to say who we wouldn't lay our life down for. Our parents, our siblings, the school bullies, Mr. Bernier, the physics teacher, anyone from another high school, another province, another country, and never for an extraterrestrial. But our friend brought us back, as she often did, and said, "No, really, who would you be willing to die for?" It was in that moment, and I remember today like it was yesterday, it was in that moment, as happened other nights, that we entered into a deep silence and shifted into what I call a soul space. It was there that we discovered together that despite our frustrations with our siblings and our parents, if it came right down to it, every single one of us would give our life to save them. That circle widened to extended family, other friends, acquaintances, neighbors, teachers, and even to some people we barely knew. We ended that night with a commitment to return, actually it was early in the morning, with a commitment to return the next night, to return the conversation with a further question. Is there a limit to who we would be willing to die for? It all comes down to the quality and the depth of our love. It is the most essential thing. Richard Rohr writes, the most powerful, the most needed, the most essential teaching is always love. Love is our foundation, and love, my friends, is our destiny. The children's story this morning should be seen as more than a mother's unconditional or a father's unconditional love for a child. It provokes for me the question, are we willing to apply this great love beyond our children, beyond our grandchildren, beyond our families, beyond our friends, beyond this community, to all people everywhere? Or does our willingness to love have limits and conditions? This is the question that each of us must answer. Great love, as I call it, stretches beyond the law. It is a way of engaging the world from a deeper place within us. It beckons us to love beyond the easy places. And I believe that to choose not to love in this way is to choose not to live fully. I turn to Rohr again when he says, love is who you are. When you don't live according to love, you are outside of being. You're basically not real or true to yourself. When you love, you are acting in according to your deepest being, your deepest truth. You are operating according to your dignity. The invitation of God, it seems to me, is to live connected to this source that is already within us. Rohr says, our family of origin is divine. Our family of origin is divine. We are created to be love in the world. Our core is original blessing, not original sin. And science offers the same message. 20th century, Albert Einstein wrote, a human being is a part of a whole called by us universe. One experiences oneself as something separate from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of one's consciousness. Our task, he says, must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. If that ain't spiritual, I don't know what is. Restoring sight is not about physical blindness. It is about emotional, mental, and spiritual blindness. It is about learning to see ourselves, to see each other, and to see the world from a place of love. It is to become more aware of the God presence in our lives. We must accept that human culture is in a mass hypnotic trance. We're sleepwalkers. All great spiritual teachers have recognized that we human beings do not naturally see. We have to be taught how to see. So for me, faith in God is not just faith in laws, doctrines, or ideas. It is to have confidence in love itself. Confidence in love. It is to have confidence in reality itself. whatever it throws. Jesus understood this and lived this as evidenced in his response to the scribe. Love is the greatest commandment. He didn't suggest we love. He commanded it. We are made for love. There is no other purpose. Don't take my word for it. Look at the difference Jesus made in love. Look at what happens when love is expressed and experienced in our lives. We have felt it. We have been there. Jan Phillips gets this when she says so beautifully, like children letting go of false beliefs, we bid farewell to creeds that we were taught, to wear the robes of healers and of priests, admitting we are one with what we sought. We are one with love. We are love. May we open to it fully, embracing the love that lives here in me and in each of you, and increasing and engaging the love that lives here in all of us together, and in engaging the love that lives here in every other in all of creation. And so I invite you to imagine, if you can, that you are sitting with me in that tent trailer, bathed in candlelight. Patchouli incense fills the air. And in the silence, someone asks, love lives here. So who are you willing to die for? Amen.